The Velthari had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. They were tall beings with silver skin and 4 eyes that glowed soft blue in the dark. They could read minds and speak without words. They believed they were the greatest species in all of existence. No one had ever proven them wrong. Their empire was called the Galactic Sovereignty. It stretched across 3,000 star systems. Hundreds of species lived under their rule. Some served willingly. Most did not. The Velthari did not care. They were masters, and masters did not ask for permission. On the capital world of Velthara Prime, the Great Council met in a chamber made of black stone and floating lights. High Arbiter Zelthos sat on the tallest throne. He was old, even by Velthari standards. His silver skin had turned pale gray with age, but his 4 eyes still burned with cold intelligence. "We have received strange reports," Zelthos said to the gathered council members. "Energy readings from the Dead Zone." The Dead Zone was a region of space on the far edge of the galaxy. No one went there. No one had gone there for thousands of years. The stars in that region had died long ago, or so the Velthari believed. It was a place of darkness and silence. "What kind of energy readings?" asked Council Member Veth. She was younger than Zelthos, ambitious and clever. "Unknown," Zelthos replied. "They match nothing in our databases. The patterns are complex, organized. This is not natural phenomena. Something is out there. Something alive." The council members shifted in their seats. The Velthari had conquered every species they had ever encountered, but the unknown still made them nervous. They had grown comfortable in their power. Comfortable beings do not like surprises. "Send a fleet," Veth suggested. "Find out what is making these readings. If it is a threat, destroy it. If it is useful, claim it." Zelthos nodded slowly. "Agreed. Commander Kreth will lead the expedition." Commander Kreth was a military officer with a reputation for efficiency. He had crushed rebellions on 12 worlds. He had never failed a mission. When he received his orders, he gathered 50 of the Sovereignty's finest warships and set course for the Dead Zone. The journey took 3 weeks. As the fleet traveled deeper into the darkness, the crew grew uneasy. The stars here were dim and scattered. Some had gone cold entirely, leaving behind only frozen rocks and empty space. "I do not like this place," said Lieutenant Morith, Kreth's second in command. "It feels wrong." "Feelings are irrelevant," Kreth replied. "We have orders. We will complete them." On the 22nd day, their sensors detected something. A single object moving through the void. It was small, smaller than the smallest Velthari cruiser. It was angular in shape, gray in color, and it moved with a speed that should have been impossible. "What is that?" Morith whispered. Kreth leaned forward in his command chair. "Scan it, full analysis." The scan results made no sense. The small ship was generating more power than the entire Velthari fleet combined. Its hull was made of materials the sensors could not identify, and it was heading directly toward them. "Open a channel," Kreth ordered. "Demand identification." The communications officer obeyed. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice came through the speakers. It spoke perfect Velthari, but the accent was strange, old, like something from the ancient texts. "This is Captain Jake Sullivan of the Earth vessel Endeavor. We come in peace, but we will not come unarmed." Kreth felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. He pushed it down and kept his voice steady. "Earth vessel? There is no world called Earth in our records. Identify yourself properly, or face destruction." The voice that replied was calm, almost friendly. "Earth is what we call our home. You might know us by another name. Your ancestors wrote about us in their oldest books. They called us the Vanished Ones, the Departed, the species that left before the Velthari rose to power. Morith gasped. Commander, he is speaking of the humans. The humans. Every Veltari child knew the stories, though most believed them to be myths. Long ago, before the sovereignty existed, there had been another species among the stars. Bipedal creatures with soft skin and short lives. They had been primitive but clever, violent but creative. And then, one day, they had simply disappeared. No one knew where they went. No one knew why they left. Over time, they became legends. Then rumors. Then nothing at all. Humans are a myth, Kreth said firmly. A story told to children. You are lying. I understand your doubt, Jake Sullivan replied. We have been gone a very long time. 12,000 years by your calendar. We left because we were not ready to be part of this galaxy. We needed time to grow, to change, to become something better than what we were. Kreth's 4 eyes narrowed. And now you return? Why? Because we are ready now. And because we have been watching. We have seen what the sovereignty has become. The conquered worlds. The enslaved species. The suffering. We cannot ignore it any longer. Anger replaced fear in Kreth's heart. How dare this creature judge the Veltari? How dare it speak of their great empire with such disapproval? You are one small ship, Kreth said coldly. I command 50 warships. Whatever technology you possess, it cannot save you from destruction. Surrender now, and you might be allowed to live. There was a pause. Then Jake Sullivan spoke again, and his voice had changed. It was still calm, but there was something beneath it now. Something hard. Commander, I am going to give you some advice. Do not attack us. We do not want to hurt you. We did not come here for violence. But if you fire on my ship, you will learn very quickly that the humans of today are not the humans your ancestors knew. We are something else entirely. Something you cannot imagine. Kreth laughed. It was a harsh sound. Threats from a single vessel? Your arrogance will be your death. He turned to his weapons officer. All ships, target the human vessel. Fire on my command. Jake Sullivan sighed. It was a small sound, almost sad. I warned you. Kreth raised his hand. Fire. The void exploded with light. 50 warships unleashed their weapons at once. Plasma cannons roared. Missiles streaked through the darkness. Energy beams cut across space. It was enough firepower to destroy a moon. All of it hit nothing. A shimmer of blue light had appeared around the human ship. Every weapon, every projectile, every beam simply vanished the moment it touched that light. The small gray vessel sat in the middle of the destruction, completely untouched. What is this? Morith screamed. What is happening? Kreth could not answer. He could only stare at his tactical display in disbelief. Every shot had been absorbed. Every attack had failed. The human ship had not even moved. Then it responded. A pulse of soft blue light spread out from the Endeavor. It was almost beautiful, like a wave rippling across water. It passed through the Veltari fleet in seconds, and everything died. Engines shut down. Weapons went cold. Lights flickered and failed. Emergency power kicked in, but barely. 50 warships drifted helplessly in the darkness, as powerless as children. Jake Sullivan's voice returned to the speakers. I told you not to attack. I really did hope you would listen. But I suppose some lessons have to be learned the hard way. Kreth tried to speak, but no words came. His fleet was gone. His power was gone. Everything he believed about the Velthari's superiority had been shattered in a single moment. We will talk again soon, Jake Sullivan said. When you are ready to listen. The human ship turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a fleet of broken warships and a commander who had just discovered that the myths were real. The humans had returned, and they were not what anyone expected. The news reached Velthora Prime in 6 hours. Commander Kreth's entire fleet had been disabled by a single ship. 50 warships, the pride of the Sovereignty's military, were now drifting dead in space. It took 2 days for rescue vessels to reach them and tow them back to friendly territory. High Arbiter Zelthos did not believe the reports at first. He read them 3 times before accepting that they were real. Then he called an emergency session of the council. "One ship," he said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "One small ship defeated 50 of our best vessels without taking a single hit. How is this possible?" No one had an answer. The Velthori had never faced technology like this. Their weapons had simply vanished. Their systems had been shut down with a single pulse of light. It was not just advanced. It was beyond anything they could understand. "The humans," Council Member Veth said quietly. "Commander Kreth's report says they called themselves humans. From a world called Earth." "Myths," Zelthos snapped. "Children's stories." "Perhaps not," Veth replied. "The ancient texts speak of them, a species that existed before our rise. They were said to be small and weak, but clever beyond measure. They disappeared 12,000 years ago. No one ever learned why. And now they have returned," another council member said. "With weapons we cannot match." Zelthos slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. "No species can match the Sovereignty. This is some trick, some deception. We will find their weakness and destroy them." But even as he spoke, more reports began arriving. Human ships were appearing throughout Sovereignty space. Not attacking, not threatening, simply appearing. They showed up in orbit above Kryn Prime, the homeworld of the insectoid Kryn species. The Kryn had been conquered by the Velthori 8,000 years ago. Their wings had been clipped, their population controlled. They were servants now, nothing more. When the human ships arrived, the Kryn did not know what to do. They have been taught to fear anything that came from space. Everything from space either came to rule them or punish them. But these ships did not attack. They simply waited. Then a shuttle descended to the surface. It landed in the central square of the Kryn capital city, right in front of the governor's palace. Velthori guards surrounded it immediately, weapons drawn. The shuttle door opened. A woman walked out. She was shorter than the Velthori guards, with brown skin and dark hair. She wore a simple gray uniform with no obvious weapons. Her name was Diana Cole, and she was humanity's ambassador to the subjugated worlds. Behind her came Commander Ben Harper, a tall man with broad shoulders and calm eyes. He led a small security team, but their weapons remained holstered. "I am Ambassador Diana Cole," the woman said. "I wish to speak with the Elder Council of the Kryn." The Velthori guards did not lower their weapons. "The Kryn have no council," the guard captain said. "They have a governor, a Velthori governor." "I know," Diana replied. "But the Kryn had a council before you conquered them. The elders still live. They still meet in secret. I would like to speak with them." The guard captain's eyes widened. How did this human know about the secret council? It was forbidden knowledge. Any Kryn caught meeting with the elders was executed. "You will come with us," the captain said. "You are under arrest." Ben Harper stepped forward. "I would advise against that. You are outnumbered," the captain sneered. "Your weapons cannot stop us all." Ben smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was almost gentle. "We don't need weapons to stop you. We just need you to look up." The guards looked up. Above them, filling the sky, was a human ship. It was enormous. It had not been there a moment ago. It had simply appeared, as if it had always existed, and they had only just noticed. "That is the Horizon," Diana said. "One of our smaller battleships. It has weapons that could turn this entire city to dust in seconds." But we are not here to fight. We are here to talk. Now, may I please speak with the Elder Council? The guard captain stood frozen. He knew he should arrest these intruders. He knew he should call for reinforcements. But something in the human woman's eyes told him that would be a very bad idea. He lowered his weapon. Follow me. The Elder Council met in a hidden chamber beneath the old temple. There were 7 of them, ancient Kryn with faded wings and clouded eyes. They had lived through generations of oppression. They had watched their people suffer and die. They had lost all hope long ago. When Diana Cole entered the chamber, they looked at her with tired confusion. "Who are you?" asked the eldest among them. "Why have you come?" Diana sat down on the floor, putting herself at their eye level. "My name is Diana. I am human. My people left this galaxy 12,000 years ago. Now we have returned." The elders looked at each other. "Humans," one whispered. "The old stories speak of humans. Beings who walked among us before the Velthari came." "Yes," Diana said. "We were here once. We were friends with your ancestors. But we were also dangerous. We had power, but we lacked wisdom. We fought among ourselves constantly. We feared that if we stayed, we would either destroy ourselves or be destroyed. So we left. We traveled to a distant place where we could grow in peace." "And now?" the eldest asked. "Why do you return now?" Diana's eyes grew sad. "Because we have been watching. We have seen what the Velthari have done to you, to the Molluth, to the Silvaxi, to dozens of species. We have seen the suffering. For a long time, we told ourselves it was not our place to interfere, that we had no right to impose our will on others. But we were wrong. Sometimes, doing nothing is the greatest crime of all." The chamber fell silent. The elders stared at her with something they had not felt in centuries. "Hope, what do you want from us?" the eldest asked, his voice trembling. "Nothing," Diana said. "We are not here to rule you. We are not here to make you our servants. We are here to give you a choice. Your people have lived under Velthari control for 8,000 years. We can help you end that. We can give you the tools to defend yourselves. We can stand beside you as allies, not masters. But the choice must be yours. We will not force freedom on anyone." One of the elders began to weep. The tears ran down his wrinkled face like rivers. 8,000 years, he whispered. 8,000 years we have prayed for salvation. And now you come to us like angels from the void. Diana reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm against his cold fingers. "We are not angels. We are just people. People who made many mistakes before we learned to be better. But we are here now. And we will not abandon you again." On Velthar Prime, High Arbiter Zelthos received reports of similar events across the sovereignty. Human ambassadors meeting with conquered species. Human ships appearing above oppressed worlds. Not fighting. Not threatening. Just offering hope. And hope, Zelthos realized, was more dangerous than any weapon. "They are not conquering us," Beth said quietly. "They are freeing our subjects. They are turning our empire against us without firing a single shot." Zelthos stared at the reports with growing horror. The Velthari had built their power on fear and force. They had never imagined anyone would challenge them by offering something better. "We must stop them," he said, "before it is too late." But deep in his heart, he wondered if it was already too late. The humans had returned, and they were changing everything. 3 weeks had passed since the humans first appeared. In that short time, the galactic sovereignty had begun to crack. On Mala 7, the large, gentle beings who had been forced to work in Velthari mines for generations suddenly stopped working. They did not fight. They did not rebel violently. They simply sat down and refused to move. When the Velthari guards threatened them, human ships appeared in orbit. The guards backed down. On Salvaxi Prime, the crystalline beings who had been harvested for their valuable body parts began to organize. Human medical teams arrived with technology that could heal the damage done to them. For the first time in millennia, the Salvaxi could reproduce without fear of their children being taken. On 100 worlds, the same pattern repeated. Humans arrived. They offered help. They asked for nothing in return. And slowly, surely, the conquered species began to remember what freedom felt like. High Arbiter Zelthos watched his empire crumble from his throne on Velthra Prime. Every day brought new reports of resistance. Every day, more species rejected Velthari rule. And through it all, the humans never attacked. They never demanded surrender. They simply stood beside the oppressed and waited. "This is intolerable," Zelthos declared to his council. "We must respond with force. We must show these humans that the sovereignty cannot be challenged." Commander Kreth, who had been disgraced after his defeat, stepped forward. "High Arbiter, I have studied the humans since our encounter. Their technology is centuries beyond our own. Perhaps millennia. Direct military action would be suicide. Then what do you suggest?" Zelthos demanded. Kreth hesitated. "Negotiation. If we cannot defeat them, perhaps we can reach an agreement. Share power. Find common ground. Share power?" Zelthos' voice rose with fury. "The Velthari do not share power. We take it. We hold it. We rule. With respect, High Arbiter. Those days may be over." Zelthos stared at Kreth with cold hatred. But before he could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the council chamber. A human ship had entered orbit above Velthra Prime itself. It was the Endeavor, the same small vessel that had defeated Kreth's fleet. Captain Jake Sullivan was requesting permission to land. He wanted to talk. Zelthos' first instinct was to refuse, to attack, to show these humans that the Velthari would never bow. But he remembered the reports. He remembered what had happened to Kreth's fleet. And for the first time in his long life, he chose caution over pride. "Let him land," Zelthos said quietly. "Let us hear what he has to say." The Endeavor touched down in the great plaza outside the council building. A crowd of Velthari gathered to watch, kept back by nervous guards. When Jake Sullivan stepped out of his ship, he looked exactly as Kreth had described. Small, soft, utterly unimpressive by Velthari standards, but there was something in his eyes. A calm confidence that spoke of power beyond physical strength. Beside him walked Lieutenant Kate Morrison, a woman with red hair and sharp blue eyes. She carried no visible weapons, but she moved like someone who did not need them. "Captain Sullivan," Zelthos said from the top of the council building steps, "you have caused great disruption to our empire. I hope you have come to explain yourself." Jake climbed the steps slowly, showing no fear despite being surrounded by armed guards. "High Arbiter Zelthos, thank you for agreeing to meet. I know this is not easy for you." "You know nothing about what is easy for me," Zelthos replied coldly. "You would be surprised," Jake said. "We have been watching your civilization for a very long time. We know your history, your achievements, your failures. We know about the species you conquered, the cultures you destroyed, the lives you ruined. We brought order to the galaxy," Zelthos declared. "We ended wars. We created peace. You created silence," Kate Morrison said quietly. "That is not the same as peace." Zelthos turned his 4 eyes toward her. "And who are you to judge us, human? Your species abandoned this galaxy. You ran away. You hid in the darkness while we built an empire." Kate did not flinch. "Yes, we left. Because 12,000 years ago, humans were not ready to be part of galactic civilization. We were violent, self-destructive. We had the power to do great things, but we lacked the wisdom to use that power responsibly. We knew that if we stayed, we would cause more harm than good. So you fled like cowards, Zelthos sneered. We made a difficult choice, Jake replied. We chose to step back and grow. To learn. To become something better. It took 12,000 years, but we did it. And now we have returned. To conquer us? To take revenge for sins committed millennia ago. Jake shook his head. No, we have no interest in conquest. We have no desire for revenge. We came back because we finally believe we can help without causing harm. The galaxy is suffering, High Arbiter. Your subjects are miserable. Your conquered species live in fear. This is not a healthy civilization. It is a prison. Zelthos felt anger rising in his chest. You dare lecture me about civilization? My people built this empire through strength and will. We earned our place at the top, and the species beneath you? Kate asked. What did they earn? The Kryn were a proud people with beautiful wings. You clipped those wings and turned them into servants. The Moleth were artists and philosophers. You made them miners. The Silvaxi were peaceful beings who harmed no one. You harvested them like crops. They were weak, Zelthos said. The weak served the strong. That is the natural order. Jake Sullivan smiled sadly. That is what we used to believe too. Long ago, humans thought the same way. We conquered each other. We enslaved each other. We built empires on the backs of the suffering. It took us a very long time to learn that strength without compassion is just cruelty with extra steps. And you think you can teach us this lesson? Zelthos asked. No, Jake replied. We cannot teach you anything you do not want to learn. We can only show you that there is another way. A better way. The species you conquered are not your enemies. They could be your partners. Your friends. The galaxy does not have to be ruled. It can be shared. Zelthos laughed bitterly. Shared? You speak like a child. Power is not shared. It is taken and held. If we show weakness, our subjects will rise against us. They will tear us apart. Perhaps, Jake admitted. Or perhaps they will forgive you. Change is possible, High Arbiter. Even after 12,000 years of cruelty. We are living proof of that. For a long moment, Zelthos said nothing. He looked at the human standing before him. Small, fragile, speaking of forgiveness and partnership, as if such things were possible. Part of him wanted to believe it. Part of him was tired of ruling through fear. But that part was buried deep beneath centuries of pride and power. Your words are pretty, Zelthos finally said. But they change nothing. The sovereignty will not surrender its power. If you try to take it by force, we will fight. We may lose, but we will fight. Jake nodded slowly. I expected you would say that. I did not come here expecting to change your mind in one conversation. I came to let you know what is coming. The conquered species are waking up. They are finding their courage. They are demanding freedom. You can fight against that tide, or you can learn to swim with it. The choice is yours. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, High Arbiter. We are not your enemies. We could be your friends. When you are ready to accept that, we will be waiting. Jake Sullivan and Kate Morrison walked back to their ship. The crowd of Veltari watched in stunned silence as the small vessel rose into the sky and disappeared. Zelthos stood on the steps for a long time after they left. His empire was crumbling. His power was fading. And for the first time in his long life, he did not know what to do. The humans had offered him a choice. He just did not know how to make it. High Arbiter Zelthos had made his decision. If the sovereignty could not survive, then nothing would survive. Deep beneath the surface of Velthara Prime, hidden from all but the highest members of the council, lay the Void Cannon. It was the most terrible weapon the Valkyrie had ever created. It could tear apart the fabric of space itself. One shot could destroy an entire star system. Multiple shots could end the galaxy. It had never been fired. It had been built as a last resort, a final option if the sovereignty ever faced total defeat. For 12,000 years, it had sat dormant, waiting for a day that everyone hoped would never come. That day had arrived. "High Arbiter, please reconsider," Council Member Veth begged. She had opposed the plan from the beginning. "Using the Void Cannon will not save us. It will only destroy everything. If we cannot rule the galaxy," Zelthos replied coldly, "then no one will. I will not live to see the Valkyrie become servants. I will not watch our great empire reduced to nothing. Better to end it all than to suffer such humiliation." "This is madness," Veth whispered. "This is strength," Zelthos declared. "The final strength. The sovereignty will die as it lived, on our own terms." He gave the order. Deep underground, ancient machines began to wake. Power flowed into systems that had been dormant for millennia. The Void Cannon was coming online, but the humans had been watching. They had sensors throughout sovereignty space. They detected the energy buildup within minutes. And they knew exactly what it meant. Captain Nate Griffin commanded the human battleship Horizon. He received the alert while the ship was stationed near the Kryn homeworld, coordinating relief efforts. When he saw the readings from Velthor Prime, his heart sank. "How long until the weapon is ready to fire?" he asked. Chief Engineer Megan Price studied the data. 30 minutes, maybe less. The power signature is enormous. This thing could crack planets. Can we disable it from here? Remote interference? Megan shook her head. The weapon is shielded against remote attacks. The only way to stop it is to physically access the control systems. Griffin closed his eyes for a moment. This was exactly what they had hoped to avoid. The entire mission had been about peaceful change, about helping the galaxy evolve without violence. Now, they faced a weapon that could end everything. "Set course for Velthor Prime," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The Horizon arrived in orbit 20 minutes later. The massive battleship cast a shadow over the capital city. Its appearance caused panic in the streets below. Valkyrie citizens ran for shelter, certain that the end had come. Griffin hailed the surface. "High Arbiter Zelthos, this is Captain Nate Griffin of the Earth vessel Horizon. We know about the Void Cannon. We are asking you to stand down." Zelthos's voice came back harsh and defiant. "You have no power here, human. In minutes, this weapon will fire. And when it does, your precious mission of mercy will mean nothing. Everything will end. You would destroy the entire galaxy rather than accept change?" Griffin asked. "I would rather see the stars go dark than watch my people fall." Griffin muted the channel and turned to his crew. "He is not going to stop. We need a ground team." Lieutenant Connor Shaw stepped forward immediately. He was young, only 28 years old, but he was the best ground specialist on the ship. He had trained for exactly this kind of mission. "I volunteer," Connor said. Sergeant Amy Lawson joined him. She was older, more experienced, with steady hands and calm nerves. "I will go with him. Give us a team of 6. We can reach the control chamber." Megan pulled up schematics of Valthor Prime. "The weapon is located 2 kilometers beneath the council building. You will have to fight through palace guards to reach the access tunnel. Then another kilometer of underground corridors. And you will have to move fast. We have maybe 10 minutes. "We can do it," Connor said with confidence he did not entirely feel. Griffin put a hand on his shoulder. "This is the most important mission of your life. If you fail, billions of people will die. Species will be wiped out. Everything we have worked for will be lost." Connor met his captain's eyes. "We will not fail." The team teleported directly into the palace courtyard. It was a technology the Valkyrie had never seen before, the ability to move matter instantly from one place to another. The guards stationed nearby had no time to react before they found themselves facing 8 armed humans who had appeared from thin air. "Move," Connor ordered. The battle was brief but intense. Valkyrie guards poured out of the palace to stop them. Plasma bolts filled the air. The humans responded with weapons that seemed almost impossible. Their shields absorbed energy attacks without any effort. Their guns fired controlled bursts of gravity that knocked guards unconscious without killing them. Their armor repaired itself even as it was damaged. The Valkyrie had never faced anything like it. They were soldiers, well-trained and disciplined. But they were fighting against 12,000 years of technological progress. It was not a fair match. Amy Lawson led the charge into the palace, her weapon clearing a path through the resistance. "Keep moving. We do not have time to stop." They reached the access tunnel in 4 minutes. The underground corridors were dark and narrow, designed to slow invaders. Connor activated his helmet light and pressed forward. 5 minutes. Megan's voice crackled in his ear from the horizon above. "The weapon is almost at full power." The team ran. They passed through automated defense systems that tried to stop them. They ducked under security beams and jumped over trap floors. They moved faster than anyone had ever moved through these corridors before. Finally, they reached the control chamber. The door was massive, made of reinforced metal designed to withstand any attack. Connor did not even slow down. He placed a small device on the door and stepped back. The device pulsed once. The door dissolved into dust. Inside the chamber, High Arbiter Zelthos stood before the control panel. His hand hovered over the activation switch. Behind him, a massive machine hummed with deadly power. The void cannon was ready to fire. "Stop," Connor said, stepping into the room. His team spread out behind him, weapons raised. Zelthos turned to face him. There was no fear in his 4 eyes, only resignation and something that might have been relief. "You are too late," the Arbiter said. "One touch of this switch, and it ends. The weapon fires in 30 seconds. You cannot stop it in time." "Maybe not," Connor replied. "But I do not think you really want to do this." Zelthos laughed bitterly. "What do you know about what I want? You are a child, a brief spark of life in an infinite darkness. You cannot understand what it means to watch everything you built crumble around you." Connor lowered his weapon. It was a risk, but instinct told him it was the right move. "You are right. I cannot understand 12,000 years of history. But I understand fear. I understand pride. I understand the feeling that surrender is worse than death." He took a step forward. Zelthos' hand trembled over the switch. "Humans went through the same thing once," Connor continued. "Long ago, we had empires too. We conquered and ruled and believed we were the greatest beings in existence. And when those empires fell, it felt like the end of everything. Many of us chose destruction rather than change." "Then you understand," Zelthos whispered. "I do, but I also understand what comes after. The empires that fell gave way to something better. Not perfect. Never perfect. But better. Change is not defeat, High Arbiter. It is just the beginning of something new." Zelthos stared at the young human standing before him, small, soft, speaking of hope in a place built for death. "And if I choose destruction anyway?" Zelthos asked. Connor met his gaze without flinching. "Then I will not stop you, because that is your choice. But I am asking you, one being to another, please do not end everything because you are afraid of tomorrow." The chamber fell silent. The machine hummed. The switch waited 10 seconds. Zelthos closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, he allowed himself to feel something other than power and pride. He felt tired. He felt old. He felt the weight of 12,000 years of ruling pressing down on his shoulders. 5 seconds. He thought of the conquered species, the suffering he had caused, the lives he had ruined in the name of order and strength. 2 seconds. His hand fell away from the switch. "Stop the weapon," he said quietly. "Shut it down." The countdown ended. The void cannon powered down. The galaxy continued to exist. Connor Shaw let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. "Thank you." Zelthos sank to the floor, suddenly looking every day of his 3,000 years. "What happens now?" Connor offered him a hand. "Now? We figure out something better. Together." The High Arbiter looked at the hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. The confrontation was over. The real work was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the confrontation in the void cannon chamber. In that time, the galaxy had changed more than it had in 12,000 years. The galactic sovereignty did not fall. It transformed. Under human guidance and with cooperation from all species, a new government was formed. It was called the Galactic Council, and it represented every species equally. The Velthari, humbled but not destroyed, took their place alongside the Kryn, the Molith, the Silvaxi, and dozens of others. High Arbiter Zelthos had stepped down from his throne. He was too old to lead a new kind of government, too shaped by the old ways to truly change. But he did not resist the transition. Instead, he served as an advisor, helping the new council understand Velthari culture and history. "I spent 3,000 years ruling through fear," he told council member Veth, who had been chosen to represent the Velthari on the new council. "Perhaps I can spend what time I have left trying to undo some of that damage." The human presence in the galaxy grew, but not through conquest. They built stations and outposts on neutral ground. They offered their technology freely to any species that wanted it. They trained doctors and engineers and teachers. They asked for nothing in return except friendship. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the observation deck of the Endeavor, watching the construction of the new capital station. It floated in orbit above a world called Unity, a planet that had been chosen because it belonged to no one. Here, representatives from every species would gather to discuss the future. Kate Morrison joined him, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. It was a human drink that had become surprisingly popular among the other species. Even the Velthari had developed a taste for it. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Kate asked, handing him a cup. Jake took a sip and smiled. "Just wondering if we did the right thing. Coming back here. Getting involved. Having second thoughts? No, but we changed everything. For 12,000 years, we stayed away. We told ourselves it was not our place to interfere. And then we came back and turned the entire galaxy upside down in 6 months." Kate leaned against the railing, looking out at the stars. "We gave them a choice. That is different from imposing our will. Every species had the option to reject our help. Most of them chose not to. Most of them were desperate," Jake replied. "Desperate people will accept help from anyone." "True, but desperation does not last forever. The Kryn could have turned against us once they were free. The Molith could have chosen revenge against the Velthari. They did not. They chose cooperation. They chose peace. That was their decision, not ours." Jake nodded slowly. She was right. The humans had opened doors. The other species had chosen to walk through them. The new galaxy was not a human creation. It was a shared one. Across the station, Ambassador Diana Cole was meeting with the first representatives of a species called the Dravith. They had been isolated from the rest of the galaxy for centuries, hiding on the edge of explored space to avoid Velthari attention. Now they were emerging, curious about the changes they had heard about. "You truly ask for nothing in return?" The Dravith elder asked Diana. His species was small, covered in soft gray fur, with large eyes that reflected everything they saw. "Nothing," Diana confirmed. "We do not want territory. We do not want resources. We do not want power over you. Then why help us? What do you gain?" Diana thought about the question for a long moment. "We gain neighbors. Friends, hopefully. For 12,000 years, we were alone. We left this galaxy because we were too dangerous to be part of it. We spent all that time growing, changing, becoming something better. But being better means nothing if you have no one to share it with." The Dravith elder blinked his large eyes slowly. "Your species is very strange." Diana laughed. "We know. But strange is not always bad. On Earth, the homeworld of humanity, life continued much as it had for centuries. The blue planet was now surrounded by orbital rings and space elevators, connected to the rest of the galaxy in ways that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. Children learned the full history of their species for the first time. They learned about the wars that had nearly destroyed humanity, the climate disasters that had almost ended life on their world, the social collapses and recoveries, the long, painful journey from violent primitives to what they had become. They also learned about the departure. 12,000 years ago, humanity had looked at itself and seen the truth. They were clever and creative and capable of wonderful things. But they were also violent and selfish and capable of terrible destruction. They had decided that the galaxy was better off without them until they could learn to be better, so they had left. They had traveled beyond the galactic rim to a distant cluster of stars that no other species could reach. And there, in isolation, they had done the hard work of changing. It had taken millennia. There had been setbacks and failures and moments when it seemed impossible. But slowly, generation by generation, humanity had evolved. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They had learned to cooperate instead of compete, to share instead of hoard, to help instead of exploit. They had built a society based on compassion and wisdom rather than fear and power. And when they were finally ready, they had returned. Admiral Lisa Cooper addressed the graduating class of the Stellar Academy on Earth. These young men and women would soon join humanity's mission among the stars. They would serve as ambassadors and healers and teachers. They would carry the values of their species to every corner of the galaxy. "Our ancestors left because they knew they were not ready," Lisa said, her voice carrying across the assembly hall. "They carried within them too much violence, too much division, too much fear. They could have stayed and tried to rule the galaxy. With their technology, they probably would have succeeded. But they knew that ruling through strength alone was not worth the cost." She paused, looking out at the young faces before her. "So they removed themselves. They spent 12,000 years in exile, learning to be better. Not perfect. We are still not perfect. We still make mistakes. We still struggle with the darker parts of our nature. But we are better. Better enough to help without harming. Better enough to share without demanding. Better enough to be trusted." The cadets listened in silence, absorbing her words. "Now the galaxy knows us again," Lisa continued. "They called us rumors for thousands of years. They called us myths and legends. Some called us monsters. But we are none of those things. We are just humans. Flawed, imperfect beings who decided to try harder. That is all. That is all. And that is enough." She smiled, the expression lighting up her weathered face. "Your mission is simple. Go out there and be helpful. Not powerful. Not dominant. Just helpful. Show them what we have become. And more importantly, help them become whatever they choose to be." The cadets rose as one and saluted. Behind them, through the massive windows of the academy, the stars gleamed like promises waiting to be kept. On Unity Station, The first full session of the Galactic Council was about to begin. Representatives from 47 species had gathered in the great circular chamber. Velthary sat beside Kryn. Mala spoke with Silvaxi. Dravith introduced themselves to species they had never met before. Jake Sullivan watched from the observation gallery above. Kate Morrison stood beside him, along with Commander Ben Harper, Connor Shaw, Amy Lawson, and the others who had helped make this moment possible. 1 year ago, this would have been impossible, Connor said quietly. These species were enemies, conquerors and conquered. Now they are sitting together, talking about the future. That is what happens when you remove fear from the equation, Jake replied. When people are not afraid, they can actually talk to each other. Below them, Council Member Veth rose to speak. She had been chosen to give the opening address, a symbolic gesture of the Velthary commitment to change. We gathered today as equals, Veth said, her 4 eyes sweeping across the assembly. For the first time in 12,000 years, no species rules above any other. No empire commands obedience. No conqueror demands submission. We are all simply beings, sharing a galaxy that belongs to all of us. She paused, and when she continued, her voice was softer. My people, the Velthary, built an empire on fear and force. We believed we were superior. We believed we had the right to rule. We were wrong. The humans taught us that. Not through violence, not through conquest, but through example. They showed us that true strength is not about domination. It is about helping others rise. The chamber was silent as she spoke. Old enemies listened to words that would have seemed impossible just months before. We cannot undo the past, Beth concluded. We can only build a better future. That is why we are here. That is why this council exists. Let us begin. The applause that followed was thunderous. Species that had never applauded together joined in the celebration. It was a small moment in the vast history of the galaxy, but it marked the beginning of something new. Jake Sullivan raised his coffee cup in a silent toast. Kate noticed and smiled. To what? She asked. To second chances, Jake replied. For them, for us, for everyone. Outside the station, the stars continued their eternal dance. Ships from 100 worlds passed each other in peace. A galaxy that had known only fear and conquest for 12,000 years was learning a new way. The humans had returned. And though they had shattered the old world,